Oh no, C++ is great for people who can program. For people who know what the hell they're doing, it's awesome. For anybody else, well, might I suggest blueprints? Or, take the time to learn. Me, I haven't had the time to dedicate to it. I've got way too much on my plate right now. Okay. Ah! Go away. There we go. So, now what each of these should do, theoretically, um, theoretically speaking, is they should check the stat pool first. If the stat pool is less than 1, then it'll come through and be like, okay, well, now, is this less than 100? If it is, awesome. Increase, decrease. Very simple setup, but this is a good basis for pretty much everything that you're trying to do. Um, in a lot of cases, you have characters like, okay, you want your wizard to be really good at intelligence, but they don't necessarily need strength. So their wisdom might be, or their intelligence might be 89, 90, but their strength is still really low. It becomes more, it becomes more difficult to pump stats into intelligence after a while, whereas strength still has plenty of room to grow. Um, and of course, you can do things like soft cap, hard cap, things like that with stats that become, maybe at 50, you only get half the strength bonus. Um, Matthew, it can be either way. The reason I'm choosing to do less than 1 is because the only thing less than 1 is 0. So as long, like, if it hits 0, then it can't go further because our false is not set to anything. Um, that way, it can be done either way. My preference is to do the less than over the greater, or over the greater than 1, but either way technically works. And this will go down to 1, and then once it hits 1, it'll just go to 0. Yes, that is definitely true. Not I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna call you Knock. If you want to correct me and tell me your name, uh, that'd be great, because I have no idea how to pronounce that. I'm sorry. What note is wrong? Oh yeah, I'm dumb. Well, luckily literally I can just change execution pins. You're correct. It's been a long day. I'm gonna I'm gonna pretend like this didn't happen, even though it's gonna be evidenced on stream. Uh, so yeah, that totally happened. So Matthew, you were correct. I'm an idiot. uh, yeah, that is the end all be all. Happens all the time. I really wanted to learn the German language in general, but I never got the chance to. It's an awesome language. I learned Japanese in college, so uh, definitely a great language, but not the most useful in many cases. Let's see. So I guess we don't really need to print string for now. Okay, because we know this technically works. So this is going to be our stat increase. As you can see there, stat increase. No, that increase. Increase. Okay. Now let's see. So that's setting base stats. Then I'm going to need to set the health. Or actually I need to start setting modifiers, don't I? Well, that depends if you're doing modifiers or if you're just doing bonuses based on the level of the stat. Well, what should we do? Ooh, I know. Okay, so instead of doing a bonus, I'm actually going to follow with this one more of a Warhammer 40k logic, which I honestly prefer because I feel like it's a bit easier to understand, which is the value that you give here is the value you have. So when we set up our dice rolling system, which is just going to be a percentile, you have to roll under the number that you have. If you roll under it, then you succeed. If you roll over it, you fail. That will give a much it'll allow me to play with the 100 system, and it kind of represents if you only have a 20 strength, it's a lot harder to lift, X crate than if you had a 70 strength, because there's literally more numbers for you to roll that would be a success. Though most of this will probably be in attacks and stuff like that. Okay, I should go ahead and set up my percentile die at least, which I will put in its own function library, that way we can use it in other things. Okay. Print function library. Now this is pretty much only going to have this dice roll for now. Dial, which will be die roll number died rolled total. Okay. And I'm going to change this slightly because it's easier for people who are not programmatically minded to understand. First index is 1, last index is whatever the number of die rolled is. Mostly because, if you did it, well, I guess I could do it 0 minus, or number minus 1, and that would technically be correct. For those of you who don't know, the way programming works is 0 is actually 1 when it comes to things like for loops, for each loops. It always starts at 0. And in fact, we're going to do that for learning purposes. So in this case, if I did 0, as it was originally, and last index, and let's say I put 10 in here, it would actually loop 11 times. So all you need to do for that is do number of die rolled minus 1. That'll give you the actual number that you want. I don't even know if I need this, to be honest, because typically if you're doing a percentile roll, you're only going to do 1. I suppose I could change this to an integer array, just in case. Set die roll this will go into set array element. okay, random int in range. Minimum 1, maximum 100. Guess I need to go ahead and make a local variable for the array. Die totals. Do size to fit. Don't technically have to do size to fit, but there we go. Okay, so number of die rolled -1, first index 0, last index that. Go in. Then let's see. Random int in range 1 to 100. Set die roll. Set die totals. Index. And what I should do, actually, instead of size to fit, so I'm going to change this a little bit. Right here, we're actually going to do a clear every time we do our die rolls. I'm going to clear die totals, and then resize die totals to the number of die rolled. And what that'll do is when it comes in, it'll just completely remove all of the content in die totals. Then it'll resize it. Then it'll run the for loop and repopulate with the die totals, which this array has already been set here. So that should work, I think. We're going to find out. Let's do left mouse button because it's easy. Get rid of tick because tick is the devil. Do a for each loop. Print string. Let's roll, I don't know, 4 dice. I think that's a pretty reasonable. And now it should, every time, produce different results. Pretty cool, huh? It's actually a very, the die roll system is actually really useful for various things. If you end up, if you end up needing multiple dice, I mean, I've actually got it in I think 2 or 3 different things, and I'll show that on the next stream when I have a chance to copy some more stuff over, and I'll run through those that are copied over. But you could set up, I mean, D2, D6, D4, D10, D20. D100s like this. I mean, there's so many possibilities, and it's very easy to set up. One thing to keep in mind is when you make functions inside the function library, each and every function has its own local variables. It has its own return nodes. So you'll want to keep that in mind so that you know, okay, well, I need, you know, a boolean and a float variable. Well, do you need that in all of them? Because if so, you're going to have to go through every single one of them. It's really very simple, but definitely a good thing to keep in mind. Okay, so this is